How to use your Navy. Firstly, you can open your Navy menu by clicking the Navy Map Mode here in the bottom right hand corner. In this mode, your armies are replaced at the bottom of the screen with your fleets, and your army theaters are replaced with naval theaters in the top right. Additionally, this is how you can see the sea zones of the map. Clicking on a sea zone will open this little menu in the bottom left in which you can view your supremacy in that region. Additionally, you can control if your ships and convoys pass through that sea zone with these three buttons here. The three levels of access are Allow, which grants full access, Avoid, which means the ships will take another route if one is available, and Blocked, which means that they won't pass through it at all. Navies are divided into fleets, and then further subdivided into task forces. You can select your fleets by clicking the portraits at the bottom of your screen. Any ships not assigned to a task force are automatically placed in the reserve fleet. You can select multiple fleets at once by clicking, holding Shift, and then clicking additional fleets. This is only really useful when moving large amounts of ships to your reserve fleet. You can reassign ships to your reserve fleet by right-clicking this button here to the right of your fleets, or up here in this gray box at the bottom of your naval theater. To create a new fleet, simply select a task force in your reserve fleet, and then click the Create New Fleet button at the bottom of your screen. If you find yourself with many task forces in your reserve fleet, you can click the Navy Overview button in the top right, and then shift-click them all to select them all, and then create a new fleet. Clicking on your fleet will open two menus, one at the bottom to give orders to it, and one on the left to manage your task forces in that fleet. If you want to merge two or more task forces, you can do so by clicking the Merge button here. Every ship will then move to the same port or sea tile to merge into one task force. A task force can be thought of as the Navy equivalent to a division, as you can individually micro them and assign them individually to different missions. You can micro where individual task forces move by right-clicking the sea tile you want them to sit on. You can also press H to cancel the movement and send them back to port. After selecting a task force, you'll have a number of buttons available to you to divvy up this one big task force into multiple. The furthest left allows us to select every ship of a certain type or individual ships to move into one new task force. So I guess I'll move all my carriers and I guess the HMS Rodney over to its own task force. The one to the right allows you to simply split the current selection of ships into two even task forces. The next one over allows you to select half of the ships, and the one to the right of that allows you to move the selected ships into the reserve fleet. The one to the right of the Merge button automatically splits the selected ships into multiple task forces it deems as balanced. Now this is probably something you didn't know. You can create templates for task forces using the Task Force Composition Editor, this button here. This allows you to completely customize the composition of your task forces. You can add a certain type of class to your composition with these buttons on the right, and then change how many you want to be in the task force with these buttons here. If you have automatically reinforced enabled, ships from the reserve fleet will automatically move into this task force to fill out its requirements. This also means that if after a battle you lose, say, 3 submarines in your wolf pack, 3 subs from the reserve fleet will automatically reinforce the task force. If there are more ships in the task force than the composition calls for, they will automatically be moved to the reserve fleet. Clicking the red trash can button here will scuttle all of the ships in this task force, returning their manpower to the reserve, but also destroying these ships permanently. If a ship is outdated compared to a new modern design, you can click the Refit Ships button and then select a more up-to-date design to refit the ship to. This creates a new production line in your production tab, which allocates dockyards to refit the ship. The hull will remain the same, but the modules on top of it will change. With certain buffs to refitting, like the Naval Spirit Naval Refit Yards, refitting ships is often a practical way to keep up your Navy strength without needing to constantly invest in new ships, especially if it's a minor upgrade to something like radar or AA. The Repair Now button will give ships with any amount of damage orders to go to port to be repaired. You can choose how many dockyards are allocated for repairing in the production menu under the repair queue. Next to the automatically reinforce button is the automatically split off button, which will temporarily split off ships in repair so that the rest of the task force may continue to operate. Otherwise, the whole group will stay in port until the repair finishes. Next to that is the button to select your repair priority level, which determines how much damage a ship has to take before it is given orders to be repaired. The engagement rule determines when the task force will engage in battle depending on the comparative strength. On low risk, the task force will only engage if they are significantly stronger, and on high risk will engage even if they might be at a disadvantage. This crown here indicates that the pride of the fleet is in this fleet. The pride of the fleet is considered your flagship and gives you a 5% bonus to war support, as well as gives the ship a buff to XP gain and reduces the chance it will receive a critical hit. If it is sunk, you will suffer a 10% hit to war support for 30 days. You can change your pride of the fleet by clicking to view the ship's details and then clicking this crown button here. Also in this menu, you can see the ship's history of the ships it has sunk or assisted in sinking, the bonuses or buffs it has on the different terrain types of sea zones, and its design and stats. From here, you can also rename it. In the top left, you can also click to assign the fleet an admiral to give all ships under its command bonuses in combat. You can view their specific bonuses by clicking the details button to view their traits. You can move an already assigned task force into a new fleet by selecting them and then clicking the create new fleet button. Additionally, you can move a task force from one fleet to another by selecting them and then right-clicking the fleet you want to move them to. You can assign either individual task forces or whole fleets to missions to operate in selected sea zones. Select the fleet or task forces you want to assign, click the mission you would like them to conduct, and then right-click the sea zones you would like them to operate in. Task forces under the same fleet can each conduct their own missions in their own sea zones. If you order for a task force to operate in multiple sea zones, their efficiency may be reduced if they're spread too thin. This can be fixed by simply assigning or creating more task forces. If you want to stop your fleet from operating in a certain region, you can left-click the Remove Region button to remove individual sea zones, or you can right-click to clear all sea zones. If you want them to stop conducting missions, but don't want to change what sea zones they will operate in, you can give them the hold order with this button here, and they'll return to port. Each of the missions does something unique. The exercise mission will set the ship's organization to 20% as their XP level increases daily. Holding shift and then clicking the button will make it so the ships automatically stop exercising once they reach the maximum XP level of 3. They will automatically be assigned to start exercising in the nearest sea zone to their port. Ships conducting the patrol mission will spot enemy vessels in the sea zone while projecting their naval power, but will not engage ships in combat. Ships conducting the strike force mission will leave port once an enemy task force has been spotted to engage it in battle. Ships with orders to convoy raid will target spotted convoys to disrupt enemy trade, supply, or troop movements. Ships with orders to escort convoys will follow friendly troops, trade, and supply convoys to protect them from vessels convoy raiding. Ships given orders to lay mines will, lay mines, making it so there is a % chance for enemy vessels to be damaged when they are moving through the mined sea zone. Mine sweeping undoes this, reducing the number of mines laid. Ships assigned to naval invasion support will escort troops conducting naval invasions to their destination and then provide shore bombardment once they have arrived. If a task force is floating on a sea tile adjacent to a battle, they will add shore bombardment to the battle, reducing the defense or breakthrough of enemy divisions. I hope you enjoyed, and subscribe if you learned something.